Hello, everybody. Thanks for being here with us today. I'm Giulio Magni, topic sustainability leader, and tonight we are going to talk about ocean sustainability and blue economy. This event has been organized by our topic, and we will have four important speakers with which we are going to give you a deep dive on ocean sustainability and an overview on some best practices and consultancy activities related to this topic. While we wait for other people to connect, I would like to go briefly about the community. So this is me, and let me see if I can switch the slide. Okay, so what's Bocconi alumni community? So our community is, I would say, a global community relation hub. We like to say that we are a relationship-based platform that wants to promote professional and personal networking among alumni, students, and civil society. We like to say you are students for a while, alumnus or alumna forever. So we like to connect talents to generate innovation and development for the society mainly. Let me switch. Okay, we are a network of more than 120,000 people divided in 69 chapters. We are more than 20 volunteer leaders, and we have chapters all around the world in 6 continents. So wherever you are in the world, you can find a chapter close by your place, your house, or your job. So you have a point of reference, a Bocconi point of reference, wherever you are. Our value proposition is based on 4 main pillars. We have lifelong learning, we have networking, career advice, and giving. In particular, I would like to focus a little bit on giving. You will find a link in our chat box through which you can donate and give us a contribution for our giving projects. Everything we do is based on a deep desire to give back to the society, or better yet, to give forward, improving ourselves and society, as I mentioned. In particular, our activities are related to the promotion of education, of course, and the social lift. We like to promote the social lift, and thanks to your donations, we are going to support the young generations, allowing them to attend Bocconi University and our master course. So please, if you can, give us an help in this way. So that's it. Now I would like to introduce our events. We have chosen this topic because the ocean protection is becoming a real crucial topic, not only for the scientific community and the society, but also for business and the investment world. So today we are going to deep dive and to investigate how businesses are relating with this issue. Thanks to 3 important speakers, we will have Federico Fumagalli, partner of McKinsey & Company, a leader consultancy group. And then we have Giulio Bonazzi, President and CEO of Aquafil, and Dr. De Mendonça, Grocery Purchasing Director at Esselunga, one of the most important GDO company in Europe. But so welcome and thanks for being here with us today. But now I don't know if Professor Stefano Poguz is already here with us.
Yes.
Okay, so I would like to give the floor to Professor Poguz. Professor Poguz is our topic faculty member. He has a deep knowledge on sustainability and also on blue economy, since he is a coordinator in the sustainability lab at SDA Bocconi. He is a coordinator of projects related to this topic. So please, Stefano, give us an introduction on this topic, and then we will move forward to the discussion. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Giulio, and thanks to our guest, Mr. Bonazzi, Mr. De Mendonça, and Mr. Fumagalli. I mean, three very important organizations that will share their experience and expertise on the key topic we are addressing today, which is how business can contribute to, let's say, the challenge of the ocean and the ocean protection in a certain sense. I'm really pleased to be here. As Giulio said, the alumni of Bocconi has been working on sustainability since a long while, and in the last couple of years, the topic has increased of relevance. Therefore, we've been participating in a large number of debate and discussion, and not only strictly related to our topic, but also populating the debate in other, let's say, chapter, since sustainability is a very pervasive and I would say right now issue for the many function and the processes of organization and for society at large. So the topic of the ocean sustainability is relatively new. I usually start introducing this new, let's say, challenge, referring back to what was climate change about 20 years ago. So when climate change emerged as a challenge, or as the challenge, capital letter, since it is probably one of the most relevant for humanity at large, initially it was an issue related mainly to, I would say, policymaker and scientist. So the topic was emerging as a result of what science was telling us. So we have a problem. The temperature is rising, and extreme weather is starting to be more and more common. This will have huge implication for our society, but this will have huge implication also for business activity, and for the economic and financial community. Then we started to incorporate the scientific, let's say, discourse into policy, and we go back to 1992 when the United Nations Framework Convention on Climate Change was funded and launched. And then we had all this conference of the parties. Probably you remember the Kyoto Protocol in 1997, and then more recently in Paris, in the Paris Agreement, which is a few years ago, 2015. But don't forget that between Kyoto 1997 and Paris, there are many years that have been spent in order to set a tone of conversation also for business. Business was not part of the game. Now we realize that business is at the heart of this process of transformation. We need business, we need the innovation, we need technology, and therefore we need a new way of collaboration between the parties. So institution, governments, NGOs and civil society, and I would say business and the financial community. All this premise to say that the ocean challenge is probably, as I was starting, like 15 years ago, the climate challenge. So we are now starting to engage the companies into that. We are starting to realize that a lot of the impact generated on the ocean is coming from the land. We started to envisage opportunity for business to reshape the business models and what they are doing. I think that Aquafil is a wonderful example of how to size new opportunities, how to recycle material, how to connect circularity with the challenge of the ocean. And same story for Esselunga when we look at the way we need to reorganize the supply chain in order to address the challenge connecting the many businesses of a retail initiative and activity like the one of Esselunga. Finally, the last piece of the puzzle is that we need also knowledge and we need to better understand what is happening. And I think that Federico Fumagalli from McKinsey can help us in order to have a much better picture of what business is doing and how business can contribute to this challenge. We don't have to forget, and that's something I always highlight, that 90% or 95% of what is the ocean, let's say, today, pollution is coming from activities that are done on land. We don't have to forget that the blue economy, which is already sized in 3.3 if I'm not wrong, trillion in terms of GDP, which is one of the largest one of the largest economy, the seventh largest economy in the world, a size similar to France or California. I mean, it's just representing a little piece of what is the value of the ocean, because the ocean is providing much broader services. For example, the ocean is regulating the temperature of the planet, and this is not valued in terms of money. The ocean is generating capacity for absorbing CO2, and this is not valued in terms of money. So the value of the ocean is much higher than what is represented by the blue economy as industries that are leveraging the ocean services today. So it is a resource we all have to protect. And from SDABO CONI perspective, with that, I'm going to conclude. We've been working in the last 3 years with the One Ocean Foundation. So I wear two hats here, the head also of the One Ocean Foundation and the one of SDABO CONI, with a very interesting research program involving also McKinsey. I think that Federico is going to talk more about that, where we've been mapping what companies are doing, and we've been trying to better understand the dimension I briefly mentioned. I think that a lot needs to be done. We have to increase the disclosure of the companies with regard to the Ocean Challenge. We need to take on board innovation and technologies in order to find solution. We need to create awareness, and we need to educate people. I conclude saying that it's not still formally announced, but in the next year, we will probably work also on defining a new master program that is going to address exactly the blue economy and the necessity to, let's say, protect the ocean in order to prepare a new generation of managers and economists that are able to link the dots. So moving from management, economics, and finance also to ocean protection and or other discipline related to this wonderful, let's say, system of services that is at the heart of the sustainability and the prosperity of our life. I stop here and I leave the ground again to Giulio for moderating and asking the question to our guest. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Professor. Now I would launch a deep dive discussion with our partners and speakers. I would start with the two representatives of two different industries, Dr. Bonazzi and Dr. De Mendonça. We are going to have a Q&A session at the end of this discussion, so please, if you have any kind of questions, write it down in the chat box, and we are going to share it at the end of the discussion. So I will start with this first question. So, Mr. Bonazzi, how is your industry responding to the ocean challenges? Are you going to to implement activities, initiative, and did you get already some results? Your company, I mean, is one of the most famous companies that in some way is mainly focused on the ocean economy.
Well, first of all, thank you for having me tonight. Aquafil is making really many different things in order to preserve the oceans and to create a business system that is more respectful of our planet. Indeed, we are famous for our ECONYL regeneration system, which is a nylon yarn and polymer that, instead of using petroleum-based raw material, is starting entirely from waste. And of course, we are here because among this kind of waste, we use a lot of fishing nets. So we go all over the world, not only in Europe, but also Middle East, Far East, Asia, Australia, Oceania, North and South America, and we try to collect fishing nets, take them back, and regenerate through our special depolymerization system. It's not easy to recycle fishing nets because fishing nets are not made to be recycled, especially the ones that are impregnated with anti-fouling agents or with other systems that helps, especially big ships in the so-called troll nets that are used for big fishes. But nevertheless, we have invented the system that can extract the nylon fraction, and then the nylon fraction can return to its original building blocks. But not only, because we are also recycling, for example, when the anti-fouling is copper-based, the copper which is inside the anti-fouling. And this is one of the activities that Aquafil is doing. We are making also other things, like, for example, eco-design activities with our customers in order to avoid that products at the end become waste. And this, of course, is a great help in order to avoid that something goes to landfill or even worse, into the oceans. Another activity that Aquafil is doing is microfibers release measurement. You know that if you want to resolve a problem, the first thing that you have to do is to measure the impact of this activity. So to date, doesn't exist a methodology which is scientifically accepted with the aim of measuring how many microfibers or microfibrils are released, for example, by a garment, or you know, something that is containing plastics or synthetic fibers. So we are now in the final stage of European approval as a UNI-N system, and then finally it will be also adopted by ISO. And once this will be adopted, it will be easy to understand if something is releasing microfibers or not. I could go on for a lot of time, you know, but I believe that it is better if I leave also some time to the other speakers to explain what they are doing. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Bonazzi. Mr. Mendonça, your industry is quite different, but I think that your impact on the society can be huge too. What are you implementing about this topic?
Well, Giulio, thank you very much for the invitation to be here to speak about such an important matter. The best way to illustrate what we are doing is maybe if you could just play the video that we send you, and that gives us the history of what Esselunga has been doing in order to have a more positive impact on the ocean and everything that has to do with water.
Perfect. Let's start with the video.
Thank you.
Wait, let me just... Okay.
Then working with dolphins. Our journey into the world of sustainable fishing began at the end of the 1990s in the streams of Trentino Alto Adige region with the breeding of rainbow trout and brook trout. We worked with research institutes, acquiring a wealth of knowledge that we brought to the sea, with the first breeding of sea bream and sea bass. We made important issues our own: the protection of habitats and microsystems, feed control, fish welfare, and water quality monitoring. Then we set off on an even bigger adventure, first with our own Naturama brand, then working with Dolphin Safe, Friends of the Sea, and Marine Stewardship Council certified suppliers in compliance with FAO's guidance for the safeguard of protected species. We have increased our care for the seas, limiting fishing to permitted periods and sizes. Going against the market practice, we have suspended the sale of bluefin tuna, a species threatened with extinction. We're always working for a more ethical fish supply chain, thanks as well to those who shared our same journey. Farmers, fishermen, and expert technicians, local companies, and qualified veterinarians. Today, we have taken it one step further. We created a new logo, which will help consumers to make more conscious purchases. This logo will mark all the fresh products and preserves that respect our seas, lakes, and their resources, because they're a common good that must be protected, and sustainable fishing is the only viable path for the future of our planet. Sustainable fishing, a further step towards awareness.
Okay. Thank you very much, Giulio. I think this is the best way to explain it, because otherwise it would really take too many words and it would not be so interesting. So we tried to reassume everything into this video of what we have been doing. And I would just like, as a conclusion, to say that the issues that Professor Pogutz addressed before are really at the top of our priorities. And we think that these are also the priorities of our consumers that are increasingly careful to make healthy, quality, and sustainable food choices. So respecting the environment is therefore crucial for us. In fact, all our activities, from store designing to sales, aim at avoiding waste and minimize the environmental impact that we have. This is why we set ourselves some goals, some very concrete goals. And for example, regarding the ocean and the sustainable fisheries, we set ourselves the goal to have 100% of our products packaged, frozen, and long life products, so as fresh products such as swordfish, salmon, tuna fish, and the other products that were mentioned in the video. They are all to be 100% certified. So we intend to have by 2025 only certified products that are in our stores, that are sold in our stores.
Thank you very much. Now I would pass the floor to Federico Fumagalli from McKinsey & Company. Thank you, Federico, for being here with us today. I know you have been working with McKinsey on this research, long-term research based on the relation between businesses and ocean sustainability. It's a multi-year research. So what's the main evidences that came out from this project? Would you like to shortly present this research?
Very happy to. So thanks, Giulio, for the invite. It's a pleasure, both personally and as an institution, as part of McKinsey, to be here today. Personally, first of all, because I'm a Bocconi alumnus, so I'm very happy to be part the community, and also because before joining McKinsey, I was working on sustainability topics for the United Nations, and what I've done afterwards is also covering the topic of sustainability within McKinsey, mostly working with financial institutions more recently. So personally, a topic that I'm really fond of. And as an institution also, we believe that it's one of the key areas of development for the businesses going forward. And so let me maybe introduce a little bit the background.
Così ciniche, guarda che gli uomini non hanno questi problemi con i capelli grigi.
Sorry, can you keep your microphone off in order to avoid the noise, please?
So I was saying one of the key studies that we have done recently on the blue economy has been done, as Stefano Pogus was announcing before, together with the One Ocean Foundation and SDA Bocconi, where we have studied the relationship between companies and oceans. And there have been two reasons behind this decision of deep diving this relation. The first one is there is very little focus on ocean when we compare it to other environmental topics. So Stefano was mentioning in his speech the topic of climate, which is luckily very prominent now and on top of the agendas of many companies. The sustainability of the ocean is not yet there, and I will share some of the data that we have collected recently to demonstrate that. But it's a very relevant topic, and so one of the reasons why we decided to shed light on this topic is because we want to bring the focus on an area that is less of focus today. The second one is we realized that in particular on the blue economy, there was a gap between scientific evidence, which was starting to be robust and able to assess the impacts of different businesses and industries on the ocean, on the one end, and on the other end, though, very limited awareness or actions from the side of the businesses. And so we decided to close this gap and try to act as, let's say, translators between the scientific world and the business community. And so out of this, we have, over the past 3 years, worked on different initiatives aimed at identifying what is the relation between different companies and businesses and the ocean. And I talk about a relationship because this is really on a two-directional relation. So it's not only how companies are affecting the ocean, and the easier lens to it is how negatively they are affecting the ocean. But the reality is we wanted to give mostly a positive spin to it and try to identify what are the positive practices that we observe in the market. And we had through Mr. Bonazzi and De Mendoza some examples of companies that are acting with a positive spin towards the ocean. And so we tried to identify these positive cases in order to improve the relation between the two. So some key evidences, and first of all, why we believe that it's such a relevant topic. So one of the reasons is from an environmental standpoint, the ocean play a very relevant role for the entire sustainability from an environmental perspective. But also from a business perspective, Stefano shared a macro measure, which is if ocean was an economy, it would be one of the top 10 and actually the 7th. And so a significant size of the businesses that are related to ocean. If we see it on a micro side, on a micro level, so instead of looking at the big picture, that is also one great opportunity for businesses. And so we believe that companies that are moving in the direction of the examples that we have heard before will have a competitive advantage that will make them thrive in the near future, because there is increasing awareness from the consumers of the topic. And so some of the evidences that we have collected, and then I invite you to, if you are interested on the topic, first of all, to ask any question later on in the Q&A, but then also to read some of the reports that we have created, and they are visible on the One Ocean Foundation website. But what we have seen is, so we started from the scientific community. So as I said, there is now a good basis from a science standpoint on what are the impacts of different industries on the ocean. And so we took that and checked how much are companies aware that this is the impact that science is estimating that the different industries have, and how much are they acting on it. So we basically looked and had quite an extensive survey of companies to measure their level of awareness on the one end, and what we call action. So how much are they then acting on the possible pressures that they are generating. And what we found is that around 50% of the companies are aware of the impacts that they are generating. And slightly less than that, and around 40% of the companies are acting towards addressing these impacts that they generate. Which leaves, if we want a positive spin to that, there are around a quarter of the companies that are both aware of the impacts that they generate, so they are able to identify what are the sources of impact that they have on the ocean, and they are acting against it. And so the positive reading is there are already a series of, let's call them sustainability leaders, so companies that are proactively addressing the topic and being able to set an example and also carry with them an entire value chain. And so the overall message on which we are trying to continue our study of the relation between business and ocean is how do we foster the two dimensions of awareness and actions in an increasing number of companies. And so I would conclude only with apart from this positive message, also an ask, which is to the people of this community to bring the topic of ocean sustainability in all the communities and different companies that you are part of, not only as a positive action to be more sustainable, but also with the awareness that this can be the basis of a better and more sustainable business model. And so the ability to create a positive differentiator through better ocean sustainability.
Thank you very much, Federico. You already received the questions from Giulia Pesaro, but I give you the time to read it better, and I move back to our two sustainability leaders, I would say Esselunga and Aquafil, with a second round of questions. So I would ask to Dr. Mendonça, how do you manage these kind of issues with your suppliers? Do you have any way to put pressure on them? I would say that your suppliers can have a really huge impact and they're very crucial stakeholders for your activities. How do you relate with them?
Thank you for the question. Well, as being a food company, because we also produce food, we do not only sell it, we are very, very attentive in selecting and promoting products that that contribute to sustainability and healthy lifestyles. And we do this on one way through our own production plants and processing centers and our laboratories that guarantee full control of every production phase. But we also make this through a very careful selection of our suppliers. Suppliers that are our strategic partners. They are one of our major stakeholders. And so I do not like to say that we put pressure on them, but rather that they are our partners so that we can enact commercial strategies and propose sustainable, safe, and quality products that are capable of satisfying what Federico underlined before are our customer needs that are every day more attentive to sustainability. The relationship and the collaboration with our suppliers are embedded in our daily work, and we aim, therefore, at mutual support in every aspect of the process, so as working together towards a common goal, which is to listen to the market and to satisfy the needs of our customers. We have always been, from the very beginning, from the 90s, as we saw before in the video that was played, very attentive towards responsible supply chain management. And this begins with the supply selection and continues then over time through a dialogue that we have every year and ever so often with the suppliers. And it is also supported by not only the evidence that come out of our own analysis, but the evidences that come out of the cooperation with several public and private institutes. So each one of the over 8,000 Esselunga suppliers must in fact meet very precise standards that are related to the safety of the products and the service that they provide, as well as the respect for human rights, the working conditions, and for the environment, being transparent towards the institution and towards the community. I would say, and we launched in 2019 our first sustainability balance, and it was something that was not forced, but it came out of what was already a perception and the conscience that we have, that through our stores, through our sourcing, through our behaviors, we have a very strong impact on the local communities and on the world as a whole.
Thank you very much. I would move to Mr. Bonazzi right now. Mr. Bonazzi, I think you have less suppliers, but I think you faced more or less the same issue, how to sensitize your value chain stakeholders. But I would like to ask you, what challenges do you envision on this topic of blue economy and innovation in the coming years?
Well, Giulio, just a couple of comments on the previous question. Think that Aquafil has changed its supply chain from having a few big suppliers, so the big chemical companies, to hundreds or even thousands of small suppliers of waste. As you can understand, this is a dramatic change, and it's forcing us to really create a new culture and new systems that didn't exist before. But basically, considering that consumers are ready and they would welcome better products or, let's say, sustainable ones, I believe that there are two major threats in the near future. First of all, legislation. We need legislators to step into the problem and take serious decisions that steer the change. Of course, we have several evidences that when there are proper laws in place, the change happens and happens much quicker than when legislation is not in place. Okay, especially at the beginning, when you really make a dramatic breakthrough in technological development, and you have to make a large capital expenditure to change companies, a way of doing business. Consider that Aquafil, which is a company of 500 million euros turnover, has already spent more than 200 million in the last decade in order to create the system of non-using petroleum-based raw materials. So if you want to change a very large chemical companies, it takes a long time and incredible amount of money. But I mean, clearly, if the legislation is supportive, this change may happen. So legislation is the first problem. The second very important problem is, in my opinion, greenwashing or blue washing, because, and sorry if I may sound a little politically incorrect, I believe that we are just scratching the surface of the problem. Even we at Aquafil, despite the big push that we are forcing into our organization, into our industry, we are still at around 40% of our turnover. So if we are just at 40%, there are still plenty of people and companies and organizations that have not yet even started. But I mean, they make smaller few things, and then they start, how can you say, communicating as if, they have completely changed their way of doing business. And moreover, they are also, how can you say, making advocacy, because today people don't like to call it lobbying, by political institutions in order to try to keep the status quo. How? Threatening labor unemployment, which is the second thing that they go and say, you will lose jobs. We have just seen quite recently our Minister for Environment saying, well, we are about to implement the directive of single-use plastics, but we can't. We can't change. It's too late. We will lose jobs. We must use paper with plastic film inside. I mean, when you have paper with plastic films, you make paper or plastic completely unrecyclable. So this is, in my opinion, is completely wrong. So these are the two main challenges that we will have to confront with during the coming years, in my opinion.
Thank you very much. I think that communication is such a critical issue. So the blue greenwashing, as you mentioned, I think it's going to be a new problem that we are going to face. Yeah.
Giulio, sorry. What Giulio said is really very important.
Yeah, we are Giulio and there are two Giulios and two Federico, so we have to be careful, with the
exactly.
names.
And on the other hand, also very important, because this is a challenge that we are addressing nowadays in everything that has to do with product packaging. We try to transfer everything into paper or into recycled material, but you always have to, on the other hand, you have to think about the product safety. And that is really a very, very challenging matter. We are cooperating a lot with startups. We are digging into new materials, but it is really not very simple. One of the things that we have come to discover, and that we are very strong-minded, is it is always better to have a packaging that is made of one material. That is the best thing. If you have to choose, and if the best material is plastic, then just use 100% plastic. Do not use combinations of plastic and paper or every other kind of combination, because that makes it very difficult to recycle and therefore also very difficult to reuse again. So that is, I'm sorry, but I just wanted to say that because that is one of the main topics that we have nowadays, is that of the packaging.
Yeah, this is exactly why I've used the example which came, so recently with our minister. And let me also say, we are trying to go to Mars. So I'm sure that if we go to Mars, we have also possibility to develop sound technologies. Of course, takes time. And this is indeed something that we can't deny. But I mean, if we go to Mars, for sure, we can also change the way we are doing business today.
Yeah, and I think I would like to move to Federico Fumagalli again, because I think that in your research, we have some evidences that sustainability leaders, as you mentioned, but also technologies and innovations already exist. So how do you think that we could to promote these best practices, these technologies, and to promote the awareness throughout the businesses and the companies?
So I would say the first step is indeed, Giulio, the topic of making companies aware. And so one of the key areas is working on a way to measure the different impacts that the businesses generate, which is far from an easy task when we talk about the ocean impacts. And the broader answer to that in terms of how we foster positive behavior for companies, I think, is a combination of finding the right recipe, which is also economically sustainable, which is starting to be clear to companies that this is actually, as I was saying before, a source of sustainable competitive advantage. And then for companies more pragmatically, probably more in the short term, what we observe is there is indeed what De Mendoza was explaining before, not with the words of push from the large companies, but let's say a positive action from the larger companies to also foster positive behaviors from suppliers and consumers. So this is a key driver of change that is accelerating a lot in the past few years. And so this is something where in the past we have seen efforts that were individual companies' efforts, and more it's becoming big companies that are becoming the drivers of change for their consumer and for their suppliers, but also for their consumer, because they set a new standard. And so it becomes then the norm for also the competitors and the other companies to compare themselves against a standard that says, I need to declare what is my impact on the ocean and on the environment, and I need to show that I'm acting against it.
Sure. Thank you, Federico Fumagalli. I would dedicate the last 10 minutes to a Q&A session. We have received two questions. One for Esselunga. I don't know the name of the person. Anyway, he asks if have you considered the possibility to open more of Esselunga's shelf space to brands producing fish substitutes, like plant-based and others? What are the requirements for Esselunga to consider these new products?
Okay, thank you very much for the question.
I'm buying them, so there are, yeah. I'm buying them.
Well, our shoppers are increasingly buying them. So we do have not only fish substitutes, but meat alternatives also in our shelves, not only perishable, but also not perishable products. The demand is increasing, and so accordingly, we are also increasing the offer. We were the first ones. I don't want to say the brand because that would be publicity, but we were the first one to sell the first alternative to meat burger in Italy, frozen before and then afterwards fresh product. And we have been developing on that. And we also have own label products with the label Esselunga Equilibrio that we sell without meat or fish protein. So that is for sure something that we are focused on, something in which we believe, because as I said in my introduction, we are very aware that we have not only the mission to respond to our shoppers' needs, but also to try to guide them. I would not say educate them, I don't like that, but to guide them towards a more healthy, balanced, and sustainable shopping experience, let's put it like this. So we always try to innovate and present new products. Of course, then it is up to the shopper to decide if he buys it or not, and therefore it is also on based on this that we give more or less space on our shelves to these products.
Thank you. Thank you. And then we have a question from Giulia Pesaro to Federico Fumagalli. What are, in your opinion, the main challenges which characterize the blue economy compared to green and circular economy?
So thanks for the question. So I think there are a couple of differences in my view. The first one is that what impacts the ocean is even more difficult to identify and a wider spectrum than what happens on the rest of the green economy. And what I mean by that is that the oceans are affected by a multiple set of different threats. Some of them are related to climate change, some others are related to the fishing standards and so on. So identifying the sources is a complexity that makes addressing them even more complex than for the green economy. And related to that, I think a practical implication is we do not have a common standard of assessing the impact on the oceans, because the causes are complex, and as such, it's much more difficult to capture in a simple and unique measure as compared to other environmental threats, such as climate change, which is well measured through CO2 emissions. That we have a very simple and easy to understand measure to measure climate. When we speak about the ocean, given the breadth of the different threats, we don't have a single measure, and that's a complexity. Second one is that an additional complexity is that you not only have direct impacts that come from the companies that work on the blue economy, as it is normally considered, so companies that work directly on the ocean, such as fisheries and so on, but there is a strong impact that comes indirectly from all the other industries. And this has been a push that we have been making together with the One Ocean Foundation and SDA Bocconi to create the sensitivity on this topic, and the fact that the blue economy is in reality much broader than just the blue sector stricto sensu. The third reason is also something that Giulio Bonatti was referring to before. So it's complex also because there is very little legislation compared to other green threats. And so as such, it also makes it more complex to address. So I would say these are some of the challenges that I would see compared to the green economy.
Thank you very much, Federico. We have time for a last question. We have Giulia Modolo asking, can you suggest 3 actions I can put on my board's agenda to help move towards the blue economy? I don't know if Stefano Poguz or who else wants to answer to this practical question.
Thank you, Giulio. You call me for one of the most complex questions I can. So I'm not exactly sure if you are a large accessory manufacturer, that would be a very specific type of, I don't know if also my colleague can answer. So one point is that there is an indirect, very strong effect all the activities generate, which is the carbon issue. So reducing your carbon footprint has also a consequence, which is indirect on ocean, both through the temperature issue and also, I would say, the ice melting, and the other dimension is the acidification of the ocean, which is a consequence also of climate change. And that will be one point. A second point, but that will be a little bit more complex. I think that we sometimes forget that there is another area of activity that impact the ocean, which is transport, and transport impact the ocean, not only through the combustion and the engine that are burning fuels, but also through the micro release of tiny plastics that goes into the tires. So when you move, I would say, goods from one place to the other, logistics need also to be somehow reshaped in order to optimize that. One effect would be on climate and therefore the ocean, and the other is also related to the fact that you circulate, if you circulate more on train and other type of less impactful, I would say, transport, it might have also an effect on the ocean. That are just two ideas. Then it is a very specific business, so we need to probably think more. On packaging, I think that both Mr. De Mendoza and Bonazzi already touch upon the fact that monomaterial is much better than multi-material. And plastic, I know that it's hard to accept, but I'm also telling that in every class I'm teaching. Plastic is not the devil. The problem is no plastic in the ocean. It's not no plastic as an issue. Plastic has several advantages and can be and must be recycled, and therefore you must be in a situation to facilitate the recycle. So that's a little bit what I can tell.
Thank you very much, Professor. So I think we have replied to all the questions. Thanks a lot for your contributions and for being in time, so we can end our event at 7 p.m. So I would say that this topic is getting huge, very interesting. So as a sustainability topic, we are going to promote even more discussion on this. So let's keep in touch with our guests and keep following our topic. We will have another event the 13th of July together with Yamamai Sustainability Director. So we will send you the communication related to that event. Thank you again to Esselunga, Mr. Mendoza.
Thank you.
To Aquafil, Mr. Bonazzi, and McKinsey & Company, Mr. Fumagalli and Professor Pogutz. Thank you very much, and see you soon, I hope.
See you soon, and I hope next time I'll be in person, hopefully. Let's cross finger, because that's what we all need. And on my side, also thanks to all the speakers and all the participants. Grazie.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye-bye. Thank you.
Bye.